When approaching a flashing red traffic light, you must You see a school bus stopped with flashing red lights. What should you do? What does a solid yellow line next to a broken yellow line mean? When parking uphill with a curb, your front wheels should be If your vehicle begins to skid, you should A flashing yellow traffic signal means you are allowed to turn right on a red light only if What's the safest way to enter a highway? When following a motorcycle, you should When driving in fog, use Double solid white lines mean What should you do if you miss your exit on the highway? You must yield to pedestrians. When approaching a railroad crossing with no signals, you should If you see an emergency vehicle with flashing lights behind you, you must What is the purpose of a diamond-shaped sign? If your tire blows out while driving, you should A broken white line between lanes means When approaching a yield sign, you must When driving in a construction zone, you should When approaching a four-way stop, who has the right-of-way? The green traffic light means If you miss your highway exit, you should When parking uphill with a curb, you must turn your front wheels. What should you do if a tire blows out while driving? What should you do if you see a pedestrian with a white cane? When should you use your headlights? What is the maximum speed limit on most U.S. interstate highways unless posted otherwise? When merging onto a freeway, you should. When you see a yellow "No Passing Zone" sign, it is usually located. When merging onto a freeway, you should. What is the first thing you should do in case of a brake failure? Before changing lanes, you should. What is the first thing you should do in the event of a tire blowout?
When must you use your turn signal?
You are approaching a pedestrian with a white cane. You must. When approaching a blind pedestrian with a guide dog, you must. If you are involved in a minor crash with no injuries, you should. You should not park within how many feet of a fire hydrant? If you approach an intersection and the traffic signal is not working, when driving in a work zone, you should. What does a triangular red and white sign mean? Three. What is the hand signal for a right turn? A red triangular sign with a white center means. When driving at night, you must dim your high beams when you are within how many feet of an oncoming vehicle? What does a solid double yellow line mean? At a four-way stop, if two drivers arrive at the same time, who has the right of way? A blue road sign typically provides information about. What should you do if another driver tailgates you? The main purpose of a diamond-shaped sign is to. What does a broken yellow line between lanes mean? A solid double yellow line on the road means. What does a circular sign with a black X and two R's mean?
What's the hand signal for slowing down or stopping?
What should you do if your accelerator sticks? What should you do if you see a roadwork ahead sign? A solid white line on the right edge of the highway means when backing up, you should. When you see flashing blue and red lights behind you, you must. You should never park. When approaching a school bus with flashing red lights, you must. When driving on icy roads, you should. At an uncontrolled intersection, who has the right of way? A yellow circular sign with an X means what is the hand signal for a right turn? What does a solid white line mean between lanes? If traffic signals are not working at an intersection, you should. When parallel parking, your car should be within. When must you use headlights? If you park facing downhill, you should turn your front wheels. When should you use your headlights? What is the speed limit in most residential areas, unless otherwise posted?
What should you do when an emergency vehicle is approaching with sirens on?
You must turn your headlights on. When following a motorcycle, you should. You must stop for a stopped school bus when driving in heavy fog, use. What is the penalty for not wearing a seatbelt? When driving downhill, you should. What does a yellow sign with a black arrow curving to the right mean? What does a flashing yellow traffic light mean? When parallel parking, you should park within how many inches of the curb? What should you do if your accelerator sticks while driving? When approaching a school bus with flashing red lights, you must. A flashing yellow arrow means when approaching a railroad crossing without signals, you should. What is the main purpose of seat belts? Hydroplaning occurs when you see a sign with an orange background, it means if under 21 and caught driving with any measurable BAC, you may face when approaching a stop sign, you must.
When parking uphill without a curb, turn your wheels.
When driving near a bicyclist, you should. You must dim your high beam headlights when what should you do when an animal suddenly crosses the road? If two vehicles reach an intersection at the same time, who goes first? At a red light, you may turn right. What should you do if an animal suddenly appears on the road? What is the move-over law in many states? When should you use your turn signal? A diamond-shaped traffic sign is used to indicate when approaching a railroad crossing with flashing red lights, you must. A red triangular sign pointing downward means when parking uphill with a curb, you should turn your wheels. What is the minimum safe following distance at highway speeds? If you miss your highway exit, you should. What is the correct hand signal for a left turn? What is the 2-second rule? What is the correct hand signal for a left turn? If your turn signals fail, you should.
If your car starts to hydroplane, you should.
Before making a lane change, you should. If you have a tire blowout while driving, you should. When approaching a roundabout, you should. You must yield to pedestrians. When you see a merge sign, you should. A double solid white line means if your brakes fail while driving, you should. What does a slippery when wet sign mean? When driving in heavy rain, your tires may lose traction. This is called Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe.